Hello, grade 12s. Welcome to today's lesson. It's economics with me, Spiwe. And today we'll be looking at the foreign exchange markets. This is quite an interesting topic, and I think in the news we've been hearing a lot about the forex trading that's happening and the news surrounding that. So I think in this lesson we will get a better understanding of how the foreign exchange markets work. But also we're going to look at the different currencies and currency value of different countries and so on, and also establish how it is determined. So let's get right into it. So we're looking at the foreign exchange markets. So perhaps we'll start off by just defining what a foreign exchange rate is. Okay, so I'm just going to select my pen over here. There we are. All right, so we're going to start with the foreign exchange rate. So this is the price of one country's currency in terms of another. It is expressed or quoted as the domestic price of a unit, of 1 unit of a foreign country. For example, $1 equals to 10 rand. So we know that in South Africa we use rands, and then we know that in America and in other countries they use dollars. So if you have $1, that dollar will be equal to 10 rand. So that is what we mean, that it is a price of one country's currency in terms of another. So there is that comparison that the rand equals to. So $1 equals to 10 rand. So in South Africa, the forex market, here's the word forex, we'll come back to that because we've been hearing a lot around forex trading. So in South Africa, the forex market is known as the interbank foreign market or exchange market. It does not have a physical location or a corporate form such as the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. So you can't say, I'm going to Newtown or I'm going to Sandton to the office of the foreign market. It does not have a physical location, and it is known as an interbank foreign exchange market. It does not also come in a corporate form, such as organizations like the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, those that trade in securities and in shares as well. So it is a worldwide practice. Transactions are done electronically by computers, in writing, by email, fax or letter, or by phone. Okay, so it is basically an electronical system, or it's a system that is done electronically, whereby we use computers, we use writing, we send emails, you can send a letter, you can send a fax, or it could be done over your phone. So this just emphasizes on the fact that it does not have a physical location or a corporate form as the Securities Exchange or the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. Okay, so moving on just to look at a definition of what a foreign exchange market. So previously we were looking at what the foreign exchange rate is. So don't confuse the two. So here we were defining what the foreign exchange rate is. So we said it's a price of one country's currency in terms of another. And now over here we are defining what the foreign exchange markets are. So a foreign exchange market is a market engaged in buying and selling of foreign exchange. The leading markets are London, New York, and Tokyo. Okay, so here we have the exchange that's happening, the buying and selling of foreign currency. And the leading markets are London, New York, and Tokyo in terms of the exchange market. So it's quite interesting because, you know, it's something that you could be asked in a multiple choice question saying the following are the leaders in the foreign exchange market. So it's always good to know which countries are considered to be leaders in this particular market. All right, so let's have a look at the graph over here. So we're looking at the supply and demand, okay? So if we have a look at our graph over here, so we have the rand per dollar, and then we have over here the quantity of the dollars, and then we have excess supply and we have excess demand over here. So this is the interaction of demand and supply in establishing the rate of exchange. So this is what is happening in this. So let's just go through a few pointers and then we'll refer back to the graph as we go along. So a demand for dollars exists when, for example, South African importers wish to exchange rands for dollars to pay for goods and services to be imported from the United States of America. So if we have the South African importers, people that import goods and services from the US, are wanting to exchange the rand for dollars. So because in South Africa we use the rand is our currency, but now we want to buy products from the United States. So we want to pay them in dollars because they operate using the dollar as their currency. So we now need to exchange the rand to dollars so that we can actually pay them for the goods and services that we require. So that transaction will cause a demand for dollars because now we need dollars in order to pay for a transaction. So the opposite will also happen if the Americans want to pay us for the products that we export to America. So that will create a demand for the rand because now we've got the Americans wanting to pay us for the goods and services that we produce. So on the other hand, the holders of dollars seek to exchange the dollars for rands. For example, the American importer wants to pay for goods and services to be imported from South Africa. So if someone from America wants goods and services that are available in South Africa, now they will have to exchange the dollar to the rand in order to pay the local supplier in South Africa. So that in return will cause a demand for the rand because now they need the rand in order to pay for goods and services that are offered or provided in South Africa. Right, moving right along. So there might be an excess supply or excess demand for dollars when the price rises above or falls below the market price of QP. So we're looking at an excess over here. So there could be an excess in supply or an excess in demand when the price rises or falls below the market price of QP. So let's go to the market price over here. Okay, so now here's the excess supply over here, and then here's the excess demand over here. And then now we're looking at the quantity of dollars, and then this is rand per dollar. Okay, so now we are told that at QP, we could have, so at QP, we could have an excess supply or an excess demand over there based on whether there has been a huge demand for the dollar or a huge supply for the dollar or the rand. Okay, so that will happen at QP over there. What are some of the factors that will influence demand and supply? So we'll start with the demand factors for foreign exchange. So the first one, importing goods. So if you are bringing goods from other countries into your country, that will cause a demand for the foreign exchange. And then payment for services from foreign countries. So if a country provides us with a particular service and now we have to pay them, obviously this will create a demand because now we need to pay them in their currency form, and therefore we need to exchange our own currency to theirs in order to pay for the service that they have provided to our country. If you are wanting to buy shares from another country, then an exchange rate needs to happen there so that you can purchase the shares using the currency of that particular country. And as a result of that, that will cause the demand for the foreign exchange. Tourists spending money overseas. So if you are a South African citizen and you decide to go to the United States for a holiday, obviously you're going to need dollars that side in order to spend and buy gifts for family and friends. So you have to then exchange the rand to the dollar in order for you to facilitate the payment of the gifts and product that you will be purchasing from the United States. So this will cause a demand for the foreign exchange. And then also the repayment of debt borrowed by foreign countries. So if we have borrowed money from other countries and we are wanting to pay back the money that we owe them, we have to pay them back in their exchange rate. So this will then create a demand for the foreign exchange, because in order for us to repay these countries, we need to exchange the currency so that we can pay them in their currency so that they can also keep record of what has been paid and what is still outstanding from that is being owed. And then also, what are the supply reasons now or factors for foreign exchange? So there are a number of them, and we are just going to go through them quickly now. So exporting goods. So when we export to other countries, they have to pay us in our currency. So that would increase the supply of foreign exchange. Providing services to foreign countries. So if we render a particular service to a foreign country, now they have to pay us back in our own currency because we are the service providers in this case. Now remember, we are not paying because over here we were paying for the service, but now we are providing the service, so we need to be paid because we are the ones who are now providing the service. Receiving dividends on shares and invested or shares invested in the foreign countries. So dividends is income. So now the share price has performed well, so we are now receiving income from those countries because our share price is doing well. So now if they want to pay us, or if they need to pay us, so they need to then pay us in our currency, because then dividends is a form of income. Inflow of foreign capital, so that will also create a demand for supply in terms of foreign exchange when we have inflow in terms of foreign capital. Expenditure of money by foreign tourists. So if we've got people from other countries coming into our country, they go and see different destinations, and therefore they pay entrance fees. They see beautiful gifts that they could possibly purchase for friends and family, and therefore they spend money. So this will create a supply for foreign exchange. And then also the raising of new loans in foreign countries. So if we give other countries a loan and now they have to pay us back, that will create a supply, an increase in supply in terms of the foreign exchange, because now they have to pay us in our own currency. Remember also, because when we do the repayment, we do the repayment in their currency, so this will create or cause an increase in the supply. So these are important factors that we need to be aware of in terms of the influence of demand and supply factors on foreign exchange, because when we look at foreign exchange, we need to understand these factors and see how they play hand in hand in terms of demand and supply. So let's just do a quick comparison before we move on. So demand is created when we import, and supply is created when we export. And then when we pay for services that are provided by other countries, that will cause demand. But when we are providing services, that will cause a supply. So when we buy shares from other countries, so the demand will increase, but when we receive dividends from other countries where we have invested in terms of buying shares, and therefore the supply will then be created. And also when tourists come into, or when tourists go overseas, they have to then carry the currency of that country in order to enable them to purchase or to buy goods and services in that country. And then when we repay the money that we owe to other countries, that will create a demand because we need to pay them in their currency. But if we receive money from the loans that are owed to us by other countries, and that will create a supply. And then when people from outside countries come to our country, then that creates an inflow of foreign currency into our economy. So it causes an expenditure of money by foreign tourists, and then that will create a huge demand in the supply. So the table here actually shows us the factors that will influence demand and supply when we are looking at the foreign exchange. All right, so I think that's something that's quite interesting because I know that some of you are planning on traveling after you've completed your grade 12 or your matric. So it's important that you understand that if you are going to go to another country, in that country they will be using a different currency, and the value of that currency will obviously be very different to the one that you are using in your own country. So it's important that you are aware of what the exchange rate is in that country so that you can plan accordingly. And then now we're going to then look at appreciation and the depreciation of the different currencies, because it's important to know that currencies do appreciate and they also do depreciate as well. And there are a number of factors that cause currencies to appreciate and depreciate. And we're going to look at those factors when we come back from the short break. So it's time to take a short break, and I will see you right after this.